There are certain secrets that can boost your lead generation website conversions. That secret sometimes exists within your organization. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how to pull out that secret and harness it. Let's start with a case study of a lead generation conversion optimization that I did. This organization, it's in the luxury bathroom space. So basically, you have a situation where the quality of the leads that is coming from the website, it's not good enough for the sales team to convert. How do you solve this problem? How do you go about looking at the common issues that affect conversion rate optimization for lead generation website? It comes down to not harnessing the voice of the customer that you have within your organization. And how do you do this? The best way is for your conversion rate optimization team, and when I say conversion rate optimization team, all the Google Ads, SEO, content production, all those teams fall into that bucket. They need to have a conversation with your sales team. Back in 2012, I worked for a software company, and I quickly realized that looking at the website, doing online research with SEO tools and all those tools to try and understand the customer, I saw that there was not enough information available for me. And instinctively, because it was a physical location, like an office location, an open office, I was sitting close to a salesperson, and I just struck up a conversation, and I asked the salesperson for information, for documentation that they use when they talk to the customers, when the customers are ready to buy. I asked for brochures and all those information that they use even after the customer has bought, product information, and that I could get a lot of information. What I'm trying to say here is I got more insight, more understanding about the target customer from talking to that salesperson. And over the years, when I work in B2B and lead generation website, I realized that the sales team, the customer-facing part of a lead generation organization, is extremely important. The reason why this is important is because they have access to the emotional triggers that triggers customers to buy. They have an understanding to what stops customers from completing a purchase, especially when you have complex sales. They also have the perfect demographic profile information of the stakeholders involved in those buying decisions. It's counterintuitive to assume that a lead generation buying decision falls on one person. It doesn't. Normally, you have someone that is responsible for the research, and then you have the final decision maker. In some instance, if it's a product or a service that requires decisions from a couple, you find one part of those couple would be involved in the research, and the other one, in some instances, would then collaborate towards the end of the purchase before they make that final purchase. But it's important to understand that lead generation insight, voice of the customer insight, comes from your sales team. That doesn't mean you cannot get information online and through other sources, but it's those grouping, coming together of that information pool that gives you a holistic view of how to optimize your B2B lead generation website. Let's start with the first month. Before I started CRO on this lead generation website, one secret I want you to understand that I use and that I would encourage you to use on your lead generation website is do more research. Sometimes organizations, digital marketers, CRO agencies are very, very fast. They want to deliver quickly. It's good to be fast. It's good to work in an agile way. But if you're running to failure, you're bound to fail. So it's better to understand problem identification phase. So you have two phases of a customer. A customer is aware of a problem. and then they decide that, okay, they need a solution to solve that problem. So at the problem identification phase, you need to make sure that you've optimized your content, you've optimized your acquisition channel to be ready there. You also need to make sure that you optimize for the solution phase as well. So why I'm saying this is when someone is looking to buy an expensive luxury bathroom and it's a lead generation website, before they come to your website, they would have done more research. They would have looked at different information. They would have looked at magazines. They would have looked at videos on YouTube. They would have read they would have visited your website or other websites. And from there, they will pull a list. Before they filled the form on your lead generation website, they would have had more information that they need before they buy. But it's also possible that they don't have all the information. So it's important to make sure that you do detailed research at the first month of your conversion rate optimization for a lead generation website. Also, the first month, you also want to make sure that you look at the landing pages. You look at your Google Analytics GA4 information. This part is sometimes ignored. You have situations where you have landing pages that have less than 2-3 minutes duration times on it. How do you expect people to convert if they are not consuming information on your landing page? They're not spending enough time on the landing page to consume and assimilate the content on your page. So it's important to look at your landing page and make sure that you identify the drop-off points on those landing pages. You want to look at, okay, what is the conversion from the homepage? People that land and start their journey from the homepage, what is the conversion rate of that? What is the conversion rate of your product page? You also want to look at your form pages. You want to understand the exit rate. How many people are landing on those pages and how many people are bouncing off? You look at your Google Analytics insights. You want to see the traffic coming to your form pages. The form page is that page that you get those information that you then pass on to the sales team. You want to understand the impact of the navigation tab on those forms. Does your form page have navigation? Do they not have navigation? Does your form page have links on them that takes people away from those pages? In some instances, you find form pages that would have external links that takes people to the privacy page. Those kind of information you need to look at. You also want to look at the conversion rate by device. So when I was working with this client, I reviewed a 90-day data to identify the customer behavior patterns on their website. I looked at the mobile traffic. I looked at, okay, the traffic from mobile, I understood that, okay, from the insight, it's significantly higher. And due to that increase in traffic from mobile devices, the conversion on that mobile, does it necessarily align with the traffic volume? How do I look at the conversion on desktop and compare it to mobile? So those are the insights that I did in the first month. Also in the first month, I realized quickly that the client did not have a qualitative analytics tool installed on their website. And one thing that I recommended was we need to get a good software solution to collect session replays and heat mapping. But there was pushback from the client and the conversation just went down the road of Microsoft Clarity. So there are free tools out there that you can use to gather qualitative insights on your lead generation websites. So those heat map and session replay tools will kind of help you understand navigational issues, how people are using the navigation of your website to get from one section of your website to the other. Those tools, session replay tools, will also help you understand accessibility issues and pages on your website that has a lot of rage clicks. Rage click is when someone think something is clickable on your website and it's not. Dead clicks is also similar, where people are just not really interacting with elements on your page. So those scroll maps and those heat maps will kind of give you the why. I mentioned earlier on that you look at Google Analytics information to look at the drop-off points, to look at conversions by channel, to look at conversions by devices. That is information that gives you an understanding of what is happening on your website. You then need qualitative information that tells you the why. So I then started looking at the niche analysis. So you have niche and then you have indirect competitors. Some people just group both of them into competitors analysis. But what I mean by niche is looking at those small group of competitors that are unique to your product. So I looked at the competitors of this high-end luxury bathroom company. And one thing I understood straight away was by doing UX review of the competitor's website, I grouped that review into 3 buckets. I wanted to do the competitor analysis from 3 perspectives. I wanted to be open. So I grouped the insight I was gathering into the good. What are the good things that is happening on those competitors' website? And then I grouped the second bucket into the bad. What are bad things that could improve? And then I looked at the downright ugly. So the downright ugly are things that are like terrible and really, really negatively impacting conversion on the website. So the first competitor that I looked at, I kind of looked at, okay, the good thing from that competitor, it was like the competitor did not use multiple CTA. Compared to the client's website I was working on that had multiple competing CTA, this competitor has single CTAs, and the CTA were positioned above the fold of the website navigation. And those CTAs help the mobile users in a way where it was easy for people to also contact the organization by phone. So when it comes to call to actions, there's always that knee-jerk reaction that you want everything to come through a lead generation form. There is also that option where you can get people to actually make a phone call if that is what works for them. So you need to give your customers that flexibility. So this competitor had a very, very low contrast when it comes to the CTA. That was the bad thing that I noticed. So from an accessibility perspective, the CTA did not have a good visibility and contrast. And when I then looked at, okay, with this competitor, what was the downright ugly thing? I noticed the presence of a secondary unrelated product on the main navigation. So because this competitor was targeting a particular niche, but they were also presenting people with products that were different, that were not unique to their target audience. So they were borrowing from e-commerce websites. So with e-commerce websites, you have a situation where when someone is trying to buy a product, you present them with people also bought this. In some instances, those products are not related. You do not take those type of recommendations or best practices from e-commerce and bring it to lead generation. This was a problem that I noticed on this number one competitor. The client's website I was working on had like an image-based navigation. Image-based navigation is terrible from a conversion rate optimization perspective, even from a UX perspective. I've worked on websites in the past where those image navigation were really, really affecting click-through rate through the navigation menu to get people deeper into the website. So I had prior experience about this. And looking at the competitors, I noticed across all the competitors that I analyzed for this particular client, no other competitor had image-based navigation menu. So if you're looking to get data and insight from competitor analysis, those patterns and trends, you do not necessarily need a rocket scientist to tell you that, okay, this is what we need to do. So I looked at the second competitor. So because when you're doing your competitor analysis from a UX perspective, you don't want to be isolated to just one website alone. So for the second competitor, I did a UX review and I looked at the above the fold content of that competitor. I made sure that I also looked at competitor analysis from three perspectives: the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. The good thing I noticed about this competitor was like the above the fold section of the homepage banner, the call to action there had one single primary call to action. And if you remember, the main website that I'm doing CRO analysis for has two competing call to actions side by side. But the pattern that I'm seeing with the competitor analysis is most of the competitors have one single primary CTA. This is good because one single primary CTA makes it easier for the target audience, for the users to the website, to make a click decision. And then analyzing this competitor from a bad perspective, like, okay, what is the bad? I've said the CTA was the good. The bad was the page heading and the subheading of this competitor did not communicate value proposition. Remember, conversion on a website, especially a lead generation website, happens in the mind of the customer. If you're not able to communicate the solution to their problem in a good, clear, and concise value proposition messaging, then that's bad. And then another thing I noticed on this competitor's website from a downright ugly perspective was they had multiple CTAs above the fold. We're tempted to have a lot of CTAs above the fold in some instances because we want to make sure that at least the user will click on something. That is counterproductive, and that is also bad for conversion, because when you offer, from a psychological perspective, when you offer people multiple options, they will not make a decision. You need to narrow down the number of options your customers have, users on your website have, that helps them make decision quicker. And then I looked at this competitor's website because if you remember, the main website I was auditing has image drop-downs. So you have a first navigation menu that is text and a second navigation menu that was image focus. Across the other competitors, they had a clean first and second level navigation that revealed important product types. So navigation really, really helps when it comes to conversion rate optimization. And then I looked at another competitor. So remember, this is looking at the competitor's UX insights. So one thing I realized looking at the third competitor from a good, bad, and downright ugly perspective, the good was this competitor as well had one single primary CTA. Within that primary CTA, they also had messaging to show people the options that they have. The goal of that primary CTA is to get people to take an action. That single action, they then offer people 3 ways to take that same singular action. The goal was to get people to book an appointment, to get people to a physical location, and they offered them an option to visit a showroom directly. They offered them the second option to book a site visit where the sales and the design team will come to the client's house for a consultation. And the third option was a virtual consultation. So this was something good that I saw on the competitor's website that wasn't present on my client's website. And from a bad perspective, the CTA was a bit cheesy on this competitor's website. Remember I said when you're doing competitor analysis, you need to look at it from the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. The ugly part was the main navigation menu for this competitor was like a burger menu on desktop. So they were using a menu that is designed for mobile on a desktop. That was a major problem. So this competitor also encouraged people to navigate the website because they made the navigation very, very intuitive. If you make your website navigation difficult, people are going to hop around your websites and they're going to get bored and they're going to get frustrated and they get to leave. So I see a lot of organizations ignoring the importance of navigational bars, of navigational funnel. I'll talk more about this in future episodes of the podcast because that's a major conversion problem that starts with your website design. A lot of website problems starts with the stage where you design the website, because when you're designing a website and you don't have UX and good conversion optimization input, you're bound to then start having problems with your conversion, and then you then bring back the conversion person to help you with that, but the problem has been created at the design phase. Some of this problem would require a website redesign to fix them. But instead of looking at an actual website redesign to make sure the website is designed properly, some organizations will opt for A/B testing. But if you look at the list of problems you have, if it's in the hundreds or the 50s or whatever, then the question I always think a customer should ask is, do we need A/B testing or CRO, or do we need a website redesign? So I then looked at the competitors' form pages. So the initial audit that I was doing was looking at the navigation, looking at the CTAs, but the main page for conversion, because it's a lead generation website, is the form. One thing I noticed from the client's website was there was multiple forms. And when you have multiple forms, it's difficult to aggregate, to bring them together, to understand what the most important conversion is. Although you think you know the most important conversion, but when you have multiple forms, you're spreading yourself thin where people don't have the right information on what form really matters. So you're just slowing down your conversion process. So I did a UX analysis of the form pages of the competitors as well. So the first competitor that I looked at, this competitor had a very, very clean form. Sometimes you have a form that is single column, double column. This competitor had just a single column form, and they broke down that form into 3 sections using conversion psychology. They had step 1, step 2, step 3. The step 1 of the form was, how would you like to receive a brochure? And then the second was, enter your details. And the third one was, it was a question. They asked, do you require a design visit? This form, although they were asking the customer to fill out a brochure, but they were planting a seed in the customer's mind that, by the way, you need to actually book a visit to be able to get the value that you're looking for, to be able to start your journey. So that was the first competitor. The first competitor also they did a good job in reducing distraction by not including images and navigational text on their form pages. When you're creating a lead generation form, the first thing you need to look at is, what are the distractions on this form? What elements are present on this form that will get people to click away? So some of these things you don't even need A/B testing for. Anything that takes someone away from the form is a problem. And again, that also is dependent on the quality of the traffic. That situation requires a different approach. If you have uneducated customers, what I mean by uneducated is customers that don't know enough about your brand, don't know enough about what your product offers, land on a form page. They're not ready to fill out that form. So if you don't have something on that page to take them to that education phase, then that's a problem. So that's where testing comes into play. You need to have dedicated forms that is tailored to the intent. For someone that is ready to buy, understands your product, ready to fill out the form, then you don't need navigational element. For someone that is not ready to buy, you don't necessarily need to take them to a form because they're not ready. So users, in some instances, are required to fill out their phone number, their email. I noticed from this competitor's form page that the information they were asking for was in a good and clean sequence. Whereas on the other website I was working on, the main client website, they were asking for too much information. CRO best practices from a form optimization perspective highlights that the more questions you have on your form page, the less likely people are to complete that form. But if you feel you need those information, then the logical thing is to look for those information that you can ask now. And the other information that you think is important, you can ask when they actually come to your physical location. Remember, the lead generation website we're talking about is where someone fills out a form and they then passed on to the sales team. So after this whole process, I then looked at, okay, how do I create a solution for this client? The solution was to make sure that the form has a lot of friction removed. So what I mean by this is the client had a 2-column form. The recommendation was to make the form a single column form. By making it a single column form, it reduces the cognitive load on people completing that form. The social proof part. You want people to trust you. And the only way for people to trust you as a brand is to know that other people know, like, and trust you, and they've given reviews about your brand. So from a trust element perspective, we added more social proof to that form page. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing was optimizing the assets, the acquisition assets that you use. So when you're looking at secrets of conversion rate optimization for lead generation website, you need to look at it from the acquisition all through to the conversion perspective. One thing I noticed, and this was across the board, because when you're working with lead generation websites, you need to fill out the forms of all the competitors as well and request a demo, a brochure, or whatever marketing qualified leads that you need. Whatever the marketing qualified lead sequence is, you need to fill that out so you can get the information. So with this client, I filled out all the competitors' forms and I got sent different brochures. When I was analyzing, I saw a problem that was even consistent across all the competitors. What was this problem? They were not making use of email marketing the right way. So a lot of the sales, just after someone fills out the form, it's just straight away phone call, trying to get them into the store. There was no tailored communication to educate and to nudge people to come into the store. So what I'm trying to say here is, for lead generation website, one important secret to increasing conversion on your lead generation website is to make sure that you integrate retargeting and email marketing. How do you do this? You have email sequence set up for people that filled out the first primary CTA, like people that requested a brochure and have not requested a visit into your showroom. You create an email sequence for those people to nudge them, feeding them the right information. And this would not be generic emails. I mentioned earlier on that you need good information from your sales team. Those information you got from your sales team will serve as input into how you design and how you tailor your email sequence. So you have an email sequence from people that filled out to request a brochure. That sequence will nudge them to book an appointment in your showroom. Once that email sequence is set up and you achieve them booking an appointment to your showroom, after they finish that appointment in your showroom, There is also possibility of a lag if they've not really been converted. You then need to set up another email sequence to get them to commit, to get them to complete the sale. And then on your website, to make sure that you're not wasting your Google Ads budget. When people land on your website, your lead generation website, you need to capture their emails. Those email capture would then be grouped into a single bucket where you then feed them the right email sequence to educate them about your brand. You can also use your email to nudge them towards social media. Some of these brands have good social media conversion rate because some people do not necessarily need to come to your website. They can get brand awareness from interacting with your social media platform, and from that social media platform, they can book, if you set it up correctly, they can book an appointment or be nudged to your physical showroom location. So if your lead generation websites and you're looking to improve conversion on your website, reach out to me. I'm available for a 90-day optimization strategy implementation. Within 90 days, you should be able to understand the problems that is happening on your website and gather insight from your sales team. Not anyone can get the insight you need from your sales team. You need someone that is good at asking the right questions to understand your target audience. You can also use your sales team as an affinity mapping session. The information your sales team provide can be used to structure your content on your website. Again, that's why I highlighted the importance of UX, CRO, paid search, content working together, because conversion, it's a journey. And that's what this podcast is about, Digital Customer Journey Podcast. It requires input and collaboration for everybody to be able to achieve the results that you need. Again, if you need any conversion rate optimization, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you with a 90-day optimization plan and implementation that would increase conversion on your lead generation website. Also, I have a conversion rate optimization template for lead generation websites. It will give you the information you need on a step-by-step basis, and you can fill out that template and you can implement it by yourself. Connect with me on LinkedIn and send in your questions as well. In the next episode of this podcast, I'm going to be talking about problems to avoid, how to not get duped by an agency. So I've seen situations where organizations hire an agency because they feel the agency would help them get the best result. But in some instances, you're better off not hiring an agency at all or hiring a contractor like myself. I know that sounds biased, but ultimately, I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons of a digital marketing agency from a CRO standpoint and how you can avoid getting duped by a sleazy sales or agency. Again, I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
If you've got a real-life question, challenge, or scenario that you would like covered, Femi can cover it in the future episodes of the podcast. Just drop him a message on LinkedIn. Femi is also available for one-to-one coaching and consultancy services as well. So head over to LinkedIn, connect with him, and send in your message.